Welcome to Scouse Farm. Thought I'd start off by showing you a good old liver bed. There's Bertie looking back into the city to see if the pubs are open. And I'm not here to see the liver building. For those who watch the channel, you'll know I don't come into town often, but for now I've got an office party to go to and I wanted to film and take full advantage because I'm going to film this fantastic church. And I've got no notes, so everything is going to be done off memory, but I'll get you up into the garden because it's very noisy on the main road, and that is where I am, Our Lady and St Nicholas Church Garden. So let's make sure no one's behind me. Have a look at that, what an archway. That leads you into the gardens. I'm being by the river, it's a bit windy, but there's nothing I can do about that. Whoa. Let's try and get out of the wind, which will be difficult as you can tell by the tree. But where we are now in this church, there's quite a few little monuments and little works of art and things. Like I think this is the sleeping Jesus or the homeless Jesus or something like that. And that's to indicate that Jesus was looking for sanctuary at one point in time. But without having any notes, I haven't researched it. The only reason I wanted to film is because the office party's tonight, so I got told about it. And I thought, wow, where I'm going, you're about to see a few interesting buildings, but it's just up the street. But before we get up there, I wanted to show you this magnificent church, which is known as the Mariners' Church as well, because it used to be the last thing a sailor would see would be the lights from the tower, the old tower, before this one was there. And then when they were coming back from the journey out there on the River Mersey, they would see again, they would look up and see the light. So it was the indication that they were getting nearer to home. And there's been a chapel on this site since the mid-1200s. Obviously not this building you're looking at now, but there was a chapel of ease, which was a chapel connected to the first main church, which was in Wartime. And that chapel, there's still some of the foundation of that chapel within this tower, which I'll walk around in a minute. And when the chapel was either demolished or rebuilt, they incorporated parts of it, but the first part of the main church was starting to be built in I think around 1361, if I read the notes correctly, and it just kept getting additions. So I'm not going to go through the entire history because I can't remember it, but I will leave a link down below in the video description, and if you want to read up on the history of this church, it is absolutely fascinating because it's linked to a lot of quite memorable parts of Liverpool history, but also some things that were specific to the rest of, if you're into the Church of England, then at least one Archbishop of Canterbury has once been from this church and appointed to that auspicious position. Look at that. And the church tower and spire is a lot newer, and it's had a few additions over time, and the grounds have been reclaimed and expanded because, believe it or not, when I walked in, that's where the sea used to come up to. So where I'm about to point now, where you're seeing the arch as I walk through, all that sandstone wall outside, I would have liked to have stood out there and told you about it, but the wind's too high and it's a very busy road. But yet the sea used to come all the way up to here, and that was George's Dock. And our old ancestral Scousers decided to try and reclaim some of the land, and then they built a seawall. And over time, in the late 1800s, they started building what you're seeing at the very beginning of the video, which was the Royal Liver building. So all of those buildings are built on land that was reclaimed from the sea, which I find quite staggering that they were able to do that. So I'll walk you around the front now, and I wanted to show you also there's a memorial to the Blitz, the Liverpool Blitz, round the front. near the tower, so I'll take you around and show you that as well. But on the way around you'll see quite a lot of references to maritime history of Liverpool, and we've got our bell here. It's that ISS Sarpedon. And the church yard and garden is laid out in remembrance of James Harrison, a Liverpool ship owner. What a lovely day, shame about the wind. And when they did start adding to the church and building the tower, I think the tower was put up in 1747 from memory, the first tower that is, and then a little bit was added to with the spire. And unfortunately in 1810 at a morning mass, the tower and spire collapsed, and it unfortunately killed 25 people. 17 of them were young girls from Moorfields charity school, which led to quite a few changes to churches in the UK, or at least in Liverpool, and particularly the All Saints Church, which is our current oldest church building in Chilwell. And I have done a video there, so have a look on the channel and you'll see that as well. But yeah, the fact that what was standing where I'm showing you now collapsed and killed people meant that they needed to look at all of the spires of tall churches, and they replaced the spire on All Saints Church because they believed it was unsafe too. So that got, have a little look at that got replaced. And then after that in 1810, I think a new tower and spire was designed by Thomas Harris, again if I remember rightly, Thomas Harris from Chester, and that was built in 1815 and is largely what you can see today, this tower. And at the top you won't be able to see it quite so well, but there's a gold coloured ship which is a weather vane that can be seen when the sun shines on it from quite far away. And I'll try and zoom in now. There it is at the top. But there are pictures online, because I'm not going to climb up and show you, I'm not that fit. And now I wanted to show you the memorial to the Blitz, the Liverpool Blitz, which links into the tower again, because in 21st of December 1940, when the Germans were constantly bombing Liverpool, this entire church was destroyed apart from the tower and the spire. So it had to be rebuilt, and it was reopened in 1952 after it was completely rebuilt and the grounds added to it and all spruced up and whatnot. And there we have a memorial from Thomas Murphy to the Blitz, and this depicts a woman, a mother carrying a child, trying to get her other child down from climbing up a set of stairs, playing with his aircraft, model aircraft, and to get inside and take cover from the Blitz. And it is quite a beautiful sculpture. Now, if I can get out, I think I can get out round this side. I'm going to walk up to Exchange Flags, which is where we're having our party, because there's a few little things up there that are also linked to World War II. No, I can't get out that way, so I'll go round the back. There's a few things there that are linked to World War II. And also something you don't see every day, which is a memorial to all sailed out of this port, restored in 2005. Yeah, up in Exchange Flags where I'm going to go, and hopefully the wind dies down when I go in the shelter of a few buildings. That's home to the World War II Museum, where you can go and learn about how important Liverpool was during World War II, and probably one of the reasons why it was so heavily targeted by the Germans is that the Atlantic Sea Command had a lot of headquarter control in this area. And I can get out the side here and show you. Wow. Loads of links to the maritime past. There's loads of ships and tooling from ships on different plaques attached to and around the church, which is a magnificent building. And when I looked on the map to see where it was, there was I thought, what's that chair? Someone just thrown a chair out of the window, and it's been caught on camera on the Google Maps, but it actually looks like a sculpture. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to go and see if it's here. Where's it gone? No, it's not there. On top of there was a chair. See this little round thing? When I looked on Street View, there was like a white chair just suspended there, which looked like it had been thrown out the window, but it was actually a monument of some description. Right, spin around. I'm hoping the wind had died down. Was a bit of wishful thinking, because it hasn't. It's getting funneled up between the two buildings. But when I get up by the museum, which is just up at that crossroads there at the top, I'll be turning right. Oh. Past the Pig and Whistle, great name for a pub. And we're on Chapel Street now, leading into the rest of the city. And this is the World War II Museum, and was also the site of a secret underground bunker. As mentioned, the Atlantic Sea Command were directing operations to try and stem the tide, literally, of the U-boat menace across the Atlantic, which was taking out cargo and important supplies, both military and civilian. And if you are in Liverpool, it's worth a visit. Although saying that, I'm not being in myself, so a bit hypocritical, but I will get in there. And it's open, as you can see there, every day between 10 and 6. So let's scooch around past the beautiful Martin's Bank building, and there's one of them in Walton as well. I remember filming in Walton, and I seen a lovely figure of what was the Martin's Bank building there. It's no longer used as that. Oh, I better be able to get up here. Looks like it's closed off. Just a bit of it. Well, that's a shame, isn't it? I can get up, but I wanted to show you some of the gorgeous parts here. But I can't. And when we get out into this area, we're into what's known as exchange flags, and there's a lot of offices now, but it was once a heavily merchantised area, and local government still got the town hall here, which is a magnificent building that you're about to see. But first I want to show you an unusual addition to any landscape, which is some original red phone boxes that are listed. So these are grade 2 listed phone boxes, and not that I'm a phone box spotter, but I did do a little mini bit of research, and this one is known as a K6, which is a kiosk 6, and it was designed by Sir Giles Gilbert. Oh, what's his surname? I'll leave a link anyway down below. I can't remember offhand, but it'll come to me, I'm sure, at some point. But anyway, that's who designed it, and it's now, like a lot of phone boxes that are no longer in use, it's being used as a defibrillator, and some of them are like libraries and book swaps and little museums and everything. There's all sorts of uses that they've been put to. But these ones, this is a listed K6, kiosk 6, which was designed in 1935 and started appearing on the city streets all over the UK to replace the K2, which is the one I'm going to show you next. And on top you can see the crown there. That's a Tudor crown, and these crowns were on all the post boxes from 1926 onwards. And then in 1952, when Queen Elizabeth decided to change them, it was then changed to a St Edward's crown, which is the one that is the crown that she was coronated with, I think, if I remember rightly. But these ones are all now painted gold, because in the 1990s they started trying to spruce up a little bit of our heritage, and they wanted them to stand out, because originally they were always painted red, so you couldn't really see them. But most of them have now been painted gold, but some are still red, like this one. And this is a K2, kiosk 2, which was the original red phone box with 18 panels, 18 window panes. And Sir Giles Gilbert Scott, I think, is what's jumping in my head, if that makes sense to anyone watching. But it will, because I'll leave a link and I'll read it before I put the video up. But as I say, I don't know anything about editing, so I just press record and say what comes into my head. I think it's Sir Charles Gilbert Scott, so we'll go with that. If not, I've just changed his name for him anyway. It sounds better now. But this is the original, and he won a competition to design this phone box, because the original K1, kiosk 1, was like some brutalist looking concretey type thing, and they wanted something a bit better. And these ones, again with the Tudor crown at the top, you can see it's perforated, and those holes were in the top to make sure that it could be ventilated, which is a nice little touch. And remember ventilation, because I'm going to tell you something else that's important about ventilation and World War II in a minute, courtesy of my friend TJ, who does a YouTube channel, TJ's a work in progress. But she filmed the Nelson Monument around there and give me a bit of information, which I've also found out lately by reading up on the World War II Museum. But yeah, this phone box, the K2 original red one, he entered an architectural competition in 1924, and his design was selected. He wanted them to be painted silver, but whoever it was who decided from the General Post Office made them red. And then they all started appearing after he designed them and put them into construction. Basically, they all started appearing from 1926 onwards, and I think a lot of them are still around today, but very few are still used as phones, unfortunately, as time moves on. And now we're in exchange flags. Look at this, absolutely staggering. Some wonderful buildings, and I'll take you over to the Nelson Monument that I mentioned before as we go past the town hall. And here we have the monument to Sir Admiral Horatio Nelson. Where are we? England expects every man. I'm not walking around because they put yet another construction thing in my way. Every man to do his duty. England expects. And where was it? Ventilation. Here we go. So I think down here, I'm not going to hang the phone in case I drop it, but right down the bottom there, this is a vent to allow, in the event of the building being destroyed, Walker House, which is the rear of the museum I showed you on the way through. This is where the bunker was. So for those in the bunker, if they needed, or when they needed, fresh air circulation, this was where it was vented to. So all the vent popped up underneath here, which is quite a clever little touch that they tunnelled out underneath it. Because this was put here in 1813, if I remember from the research. Oh, it's a bit annoying, isn't it? And then 2 years later, 1815, you started seeing a lot of monuments to the Waterloo, which was in 1815. But this is the monument to Nelson and the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. Sorry if my voice keeps moving left and right. People keep walking right behind me and I'm having to make sure I don't get them on camera. And there we have the town hall. What a wonderful looking building. Look at that. And that's where the seat of Liverpool's council is, the local government, the mayor, etc, etc. And it's been the centre of local government in Liverpool for a long time. I haven't looked into the history of this building particularly, but this is the bastion of integrity. There's never any corruption at all in Liverpool Council. It's just a fine bit of local government that cares everything about spending the money wisely on things that benefit the people of the city, to make our historical legacy live long. They don't destroy the city in any way or break the roads up or make it impossible for businesses to thrive. No, these are bastions of freedom and everything else that you'd expect from elected officials who work tirelessly day and night to make sure that every penny they raise through theft and taxation is spent on making life better for the people who live within the city they have unfortunate control of. And in other fairy tales, on the 24th of December, a big fat man's going to come down a chimney and leave you a present under a tree, even if you don't have a chimney. But hey, let's leave that for other people to discuss. So I'm going in there now, the Black Cat Club. That's where our party is, and it's free booze. So that's the only reason I'm in town, because I wouldn't pay the prices. So I've got a date with a few pints of lager in there in the not too distant future. And why not leave you at a monument to the fallen of the First World War? So thank you all very much for watching. Have yourselves a great day and or night whenever you're watching this. And remember, if you don't dip, you won't get lucky.